And welcome to the Rotary Club meeting of February 3rd, 2021. I will be your host. Our president will be joining us later. So let us begin.
Shelterbox and Rotary International work together as project partners in disaster relief. We hand deliver aid to families to give them safe shelter and the fundamental tools they need to rebuild their community. We work hard to understand the impact of each disaster and the need that this creates within those individual communities. We're constantly learning and adapting to ensure that we provide the most appropriate aid. Since the year 2000, Shelterbox has responded to more than 270 natural disasters and conflicts in at least 95 countries, providing vital aid to over 1.1 million people. Rotarians and Rotary groups all over the world support Shelterbox in a variety of ways. In addition to tireless volunteering and fundraising, Rotarians in local countries provide invaluable assistance during our responses. For example, in Sri Lanka in May 2016, when the most concentrated rainfall in 25 years drenched the island, the Rotary Club of Capital City in Colombo worked with Shelterbox, helping with transportation, translation, and through liaising with the Ministry of Disaster Management and with the local authorities to help provide families with shelter boxes. In Peru, throughout March 2017, intense rains caused widespread flooding and landslides, leaving thousands of families without even basic shelter after they had lost their homes and their livelihoods. Rotary called upon Shelterbox to respond, and working together with World Vision, with Rotary and local and national government, we responded with shelter kits that help families rebuild their homes. Rotarians are able to provide first-hand knowledge of the countries in which we respond, making a difference through their logistical and operational support and vital links into communities. We're determined to see a world where no family goes without shelter. It's the sole reason we exist. Family comes first, and every decision we make is based on the people we help, on transforming lives, and on rebuilding hope.
And welcome to the Rotary Club meeting of February 3rd, 2021. I am going to be hosting for a little bit until our president arrives. She will be a little bit late today. And so first order of business, can I ask Steve Scott to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Certainly. Please join me in honoring the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve. And let's go to Casey Cox. Casey, how about a great invocation for us?
On that video, I think that would be doable. Let's pray. We believe that you are hope, that we understand that you are security and provision, and you do a specialty of recovery, restoration, and even a renewal of our lives. And so, God, as we look to see the shelter box that we can give tangibly to the world, we also thank you for the gift that you have brought to each one of us today in our hearts. May that warm us, may that encourage us, and may it lift us to believe we can do more and be more than we ever imagined before. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you so much, Casey. And now we're going to go around the wheel and talk to the spokes, introduce the Rotarians. Let's begin with Mary Ann.
Mary Ann Kistler, retired banker, been in Rotary over 25 years, and I really, really like Rotary.
You're also a past president and our current foundation chair, are you not?
That is correct. Thank you, Raymond.
Excellent. Steve Scott, how about you, buddy?
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Scott. I am the current treasurer of the Rotary Club, past president. Been a member for about 11 years, and I am a State Farm agent in San Dimas.
Thank you, Steve. Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Raymond. My name is Mike Wallace. I am the president of Better Home Financial here in downtown San Dimas. I've been a Rotarian probably about 6 years, past president, past treasurer, and I'm happy to be here serving the community.
Excellent. Hey, Mike, you're on the hook for four-way test at the end, even if you just want to read it to us.
Excellent. Sounds good.
All right, cool. Derek, our newest member. Wake up,
My
Derek.
name is Derek Bapanu. I am a proud Rotary member for the last 2 weeks, and I'm also a public school teacher.
Very cool. And so we have another Rotarian from the Azusa Rotary Club. Terry, say hello for everybody.
Hey, hello. This is Terry Kissler. I'm past president of Azusa Rotary. I'm currently international chair for Azusa Rotary.
Excellent. And then we have an erstwhile Rotarian. She does so much work. Peyton, you ought to be a Rotarian. So say hello to everybody and tell us where you're from.
Well, I'm working on it. My name is Peyton. I'm from Surf Pro of Glendora, San Dimas, marketing rep. Love helping out Rotary on every event we can, and it looks like we're going to have a shelter box event coming up, so really happy to dive in. I'm actually here with my other marketing rep, Megan Deanda over there in my corner. She just wanted to pop in and kind of meet you guys, say hello as well.
Excellent. Yeah, Megan, you know what? If you can come up with an idea after we listen to Parker's presentation, we can do another one of those great events we've had so far. Megan, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi, my name is Megan Deanda, and like Peyton said, we're partners in crime for Surpro, Glendora, San Dimas, and also Irwindale and Baldwin Park, and I'm excited to be here today.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you here also. And so let's just dive right in. Parker,
maybe I get to be a Rotary member.
Oh, that's right. Did I not introduce you?
I'm a failed face of the Rotary. Raymond took over the face of the Rotary and kicked me out. My name's Casey. I'm a certified health coach. Happy to be here, changing the world one habit at a time, and also engaged in the Rotary as past president and serving our community one person at a time.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for drawing yourself to attention to me. That is my error for not introducing you, Casey. I apologize. Your invocation just so enthused me. I had to get moving, buddy. So thank you so much for being here. Again, I apologize for missing you. So let's just jump right in. Parker is a shelter box ambassador. His working career includes 10 years in the United States Navy as an electronics technician, supervising operation of the Navigation Center on ballistic nuclear missile submarines. While on shore duty, he earned his BS in Business Administration from Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, graduating cum laude. In 1979, he and his wife, Sandra, moved to Santa Monica, California. Parker became the production planning supervisor at one aerospace company before assuming the responsibilities of manufacturing manager at another. He also studied at night and earned his MBA from USC in 2 years. He was hired by the nation's second largest alarm and patrol company, now owned by ADT, where he formalized the training for all positions within the company except for accounting, sales, and engineering. He created their customer service evaluation system, which was integrated with individual and departmental performance evaluations. Parker then struck out on his own, first with a consulting business, and then he established Emerson Music, a sheet music retail store and music publisher. After 18 years, he sold the music business and started yet another business, Emerson Consulting Group Incorporated, which does public policy and program analysis and evaluation. Parker is a planning commissioner for the city of Claremont and sits on the board of directors of the Claremont Sunrise Rotary Club and the Claremont Corral. Hey, Parker, welcome to the San Dimas Rotary Club. We're really enthused to hear about Shelter Box.
Well, great. Thanks for the introduction. I forgot to mention that I'm also a past president of Claremont Sunrise Rotary. So I do have kind of a dual connection there. My background, for those who may or may not be interested, is a church in Russia along the Volga River. This particular church is noted for the tiles. You can see this fantastic mosaic above the entryway, and all around the bottom are tiles that it's particularly noted for. I presume that at least some of you know something about Shelter Box, so let me go ahead and share my screen and tell you more about Shelter Box and answer any questions you may have. Shelter Box is, I'm trying to get my cursor to where it is going to do what it needs to do. For those of you who are not aware, Shelterbox is Rotary International's disaster relief partner. And we've had that distinction for the last 9 years. And we kind of do stuff all around the world. And we pride ourselves on being producers and being active in providing resources that are needed rather than just resources that we happen to have. Shelterbox is really all about home. In the world we respond to where people have lost their home and their livelihood due to natural disasters or in conflict. And this is what it looks like when we get to the sites. These are also vacation spots. This happens to be Barbuda. This is what was left in Barbuda after the hurricane went through a couple of years ago. So we provide temporary shelter and tools for people to rebuild their homes and their lives. So rather than just giving them shelter, we also ensure that they have the tools with which they can use to rebuild their homes and to rebuild their lives and their livelihood. We're a 4-star rating on Charity Navigator. And the basic question might come up, why do we exist? Well, today there are 60 million people, that's over 10 times the population of LA County, displaced today as a result of conflict. These are some of the people that were displaced in Syria. This is a family. We deal with families and homes. 25 million are displaced by natural disasters. That's only 3.5 times the population of LA County that are displaced today on an average day by natural disasters. So the need is obviously huge. And this is one of the people that's been displaced by natural disaster. In this case, it was famine. Our vision is a world where no family is without shelter after a disaster strikes. We'd like to have no disasters, but can't do that. We started in 2000. This was the shelter box with the project of a club in England for their Millennial Project. For those of you who were Rotarians at the time, you recall every club was challenged to come up with a Millennium Project in 2000. This was the result in a place in England. And after the first year, they realized that there was a greater need than the club could do all by itself. So they approached Rotary International for help, and they said, well, you're an awesome project and it's really cool, but if the headquarters in Evanston catches on fire, we hope that we'll be able to get everyone out of the building. But that's pretty much our limit and capability for doing emergency disaster relief. Keep it up and we'll support you any way we can. Our aid is temporary shelter and the tools to rebuild lives. We have several tents available. The standard relief tent in the upper left corner is our most commonly used tent. We have a midi tent, which is a smaller tent, an OAS tent, which is a little bit smaller yet, but has a larger entryway. The Flex 3 tent is used exclusively in cold climates where people have to be able to cook inside the tent. And so we have that vent on the outside of the tent, and that comes with a stove on the inside, and it's about 1/3 larger than our standard tent because we needed the space for the stove and still the same space for families. And we use the UN spec tent in relief areas. So when you see these aerial views of refugee camps, you only see the UN spec tent because all of the aid agencies have agreed to use the same tent for uniformity, and it avoids building up conflict within an already stressed refugee camp, as some people have, quote, better tents than others. This way everyone has the same tent, and it's a tough life. The UN spec tent is more expensive in terms of initial expense and shipping, it's a very heavy tent. Our standard relief tent is only about 30 pounds. We also have a thing called a shelter kit, and you can see here in a city, often there's not room to clear the rubble and put up a tent and then have space to rebuild your house. So the shelter kit we developed because it's a much more useful item, particularly in cases where the basic structure may still exist and you can just use the shelter kit to keep the weather out. So there are two of these tarpaulins in the upper right corner, in the lower right corner here. These are special tarps that if you cut along this black band, it will not unravel. And you can also nail through this black band and not have it leak through the nail. We have saws, hammers, hoes, nails, shovels, etc. So these are some of the tools you'll need to rebuild your house and also rebuild your livelihood. In much of the world, the livelihood of the people that we assist are farmers or agrarian, and so a hoe becomes a very major tool to have, both for rebuilding, digging your latrine, growing your own vegetables, and in many cases being able to then go to work for area farmers. You got a tool so you can be helpful and be employed by a local farmer. Other things that are in the box are a light, a Luminade light. This is one of the early models of Luminade lights, which is solar powered and totally waterproof. You can actually operate this down to about 5 feet underwater. In a very important factor in the tropics where it's very humid, all of the other solar powered lights that we tried ultimately succumbed in about 2 weeks to the high humidity of the tropics. Humidity gets in around the battery terminals and it's gone. This is totally hermetically sealed. During a typical 8-hour day of charge, it'll then run for another 6 to 8 hours during the night. And it makes it handy so you can do more studying and work at night, and keeps you from tripping over the tiger on your way to the latrine. Mosquito nets are essential in much of the world. And we have a thing called a thirst aid station, which is a very high quality water filter. It filters about 36 liters an hour and is simplicity itself to use. It eliminates virtually all bacteria and viruses and many chemicals, heavy metals, and odor. So this removes things like selenium, lead, and other items that you might find in the water. In many cases, once we arrive and people start using the thirst aid kit, they are having clean water for the first time in their lives, and waterborne diseases go down because they're now drinking clean water instead of polluted water with viruses in it. How do we get it there? Well, pretty much any way possible that we can arrange, and that's appropriate for the terrain. Put it on bicycles, walk along with it, muleback. In this case, it's a boatload of that's just the tent. And sometimes people just carry it on their back. Now, you may be familiar with those blue straps that are it's about 3/8 of an inch wide plastic straps. They're used to seal cartons. And so they're very comfortable to grab and carry on your back. The box weighs about 130, 140 pounds, depending on what's in it. And this guy is actually smiling because he now has a home for his family, and he's carrying that about 5 kilometers to his new place in Ethiopia. It's possible because we work with everybody. We're like Rotarians. Shelter Box is non-sectarian and non-political, and we work around the world primarily through Shelter Box response teams. These are the people that actually go in the field and find out what specifically the need is, which specific families need what, and mobilize resources to get them there. Shelter Box response team member goes through about 9 months of training with Shelter Box before they go out in the field. And they require a commitment of a minimum of 3 years of deployment, which is you're scheduled for a 30-day period twice a year, or sorry, one time a year for at least 3 years. So you might get a call if you're a response team member saying, hey, Terry, they had a earthquake in Nepal. We want you there tomorrow. And so you have to have this unique position with your employer to be able to say, yeah, I won't be in for the next 2-3 weeks. I'll be in Nepal. And I'll be back and presume that I'll resume my old job when I get back. So the response team members are really critical. They're all volunteer. We do pay for the expenses while they're deployed, but we don't pay them for their time while they're deployed. It's through partners such as Rotary around the world and donors. We need lots and lots of donors, big and small donors. So we hope that your club will support Shelter Box. The typical gift is $1,000, which supplies all of the equipment, materials, and transportation for at least one family anywhere in the world, and up to 5 families, depending on whether they get the tent or a shelter kit and what other materials they might get. We've been deployed at some time in all of the green countries shown on this map, and we've added a country since then, since 2018. So we've been pretty much everywhere. We have been in the US, but rarely are in the US because the US has a very good ability to respond to natural disaster needs. And happily, we've not had any conflict needs that have required our services in the US. Much of the rest of the world, a disaster that affects 200 or more families is a real strain on the entire country, because at that level, it's affecting not just a local area, but a large area within the country gets affected by doing the disaster response. Some of our notable deployments is our first big one was the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, and the interesting place to park a boat. We provided over 22,000 shelter boxes in 4 countries, and we were able to have the first boxes on the ground within 96 hours, which is a pretty fast response. This picture happens to be a Russian Antonov aircraft, which is the largest cargo plane in the world. It will hold 17,000 shelter boxes and the crew of people. We were in, as I said, in the US after Hurricane Sandy in 2012. And in that case, it was mostly blankets, gloves, hats, and kits for the kids. And after Katrina, we were in New Orleans and Texas, helping out with them. We were in Haiti in 2010, and again in 2016. In 2016, when we returned after the hurricane, they said, please do not bring the tents. And we said, why not? And they said, well, of the 27,000 shelter tents that you brought to us in 2010, about 8,000 are still in use today as primary residences. So they're better residences than they lost in the earthquake or the hurricane. So please bring something else to encourage people to rebuild rather than just take your tent and live in it for some people now 10 years. So we delivered shelter kits in that case. Barbuda and the Virgin Islands, Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. I'm glad to see the guy stopped for the stop sign. We also developed this thing called Shelter in Shelter. Now, in many cases, particularly in the US, after disasters, people are moved into large centers like the Astrodome. And it starts, or convention centers. And so it looks like this. So you've lost your house and most of your possessions and some of your friends, maybe some of your family. And this is your relief, is being in a convention center on a cot where everyone sees everything, which obviously this must lower everyone's stress level being out in the open like this. So we developed the little OAS tent to put into convention centers. So that converts being like this with all your stuff in a bag to putting the same stuff in a tent so you have your own private area. The walls are certainly not soundproof, but you're at least separated from everyone else in the convention center. This greatly relieves the stress and has helped people in recovering from the initial trauma of losing their house, and provides them an area that they can start planning how to get going again. We also set up several of these to be used for nursing stations, for nursing mothers, and for providing first aid to those that needed first aid. So it wasn't exposed out to everybody in the rest of the convention center. The Syrian crisis we've been involved with since 2011 in providing shelter and training for the kids. Our real concern particularly in the Syrian conflict is illiteracy. Nothing makes it easier to radicalize people than having them be illiterate, so that whatever you tell them the Bible or the Quran or whatever says, they have to believe it because they can't read to tell for themselves. So we've worked with some partners and provide some of the materials for schooling for the kids in Syria. Hopefully we will not lose an entire generation of displaced Syrians. So here, these yellow packs are the packs we give for the children. It contains a toy and school supplies, chalkboard, chalk, paper, pencils, so that you can start continuing their education. Current deployments, this is about a month out of date. Syria, Iraq, the Philippines. Every year we go to the Philippines because they're right in the path of typhoons or Pacific hurricanes. And their building codes are frankly pathetic, so that storms come in and they get blown away. Nigeria, Cameroon, Republic of Congo, Somaliland, and Niger in Ethiopia. One of our deployments a few years ago was over here, where my pointer is an island called Vanuatu, which this is the first time you've probably heard of Vanuatu. One of the outputs from that was in the shelter kit is a long, it's a 100-meter nylon twisted rope with 3 pairs. And one of the people that got it came back 2 days later and said, "This is awesome, I'm back in business." And we said, "So fast?" He said, "Yeah, I untwisted the rope and the strands are just exactly the right size for a fishnet. So I remade my fishnets and I'm back in business." So we never anticipated that as an output, but people are innovative. How you can help is donate to Shelterbox USA. You cannot support Shelterbox by donating to Rotary. You actually have to write a check to Shelterbox USA to do a donation. We are completely separate legal organizations. Rotary International supports us with logistical support and telling the clubs, if Shelterbox shows up, please help them out any way you can. But they do not provide, per se, monetary support for us. We do not accept government donations because that implies political baggage that may impede our ability to deliver aid. You can imagine going to countries such as Myanmar, which is now under martial law, and we have been there before when it was under martial law, and if they find out, oh, we got federal funding, then, oh, you must be funded by the CIA, so you're really spies. So we don't get any funding from any government anywhere in the world, partly for that reason. You can develop a hero program, which is where your club commits to ongoing support for at least 3 years at $1,000, $3,000, or $5,000 per year each year. And then your name shows up on the Shelter Box site as a hero club. You can become a Shelter Box liaison, so I'd be wonderfully happy if one of you signed up to be a Shelter Box liaison, which means you're getting updated emails monthly from Shelter Box of what's going on and what's needed next. You can become a Shelter Box ambassador like me, which is like being a liaison, except you get to work with many clubs and you get to, in non-COVID times, travel around to clubs to make presentations or just make online presentations like we're doing now. Or you can become a Shelter Box response team member, which, as I mentioned earlier, requires about 9 months of training and a 3-year minimum commitment to go out in the field and actually help with Shelter Box disaster response. So in summary, Shelter Box is about people. We're using equipment along the way, but it's really about people. And it's providing people with the tools and equipment for them to rebuild their lives as well as their homes. Any questions?
And we are open for questions. That's a fabulous presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
Go ahead, Mike.
sorry, just had a quick question. It seems like kind of each disaster obviously is different. Each place that that you go, is the Shelter Box package kind of ever evolving in that you learn from what's needed in each area and add to it?
Yes and no. We're constantly learning. We're constantly changing. Okay, there we go. This shows all of the stuff that could be in a Shelter Box, and you're exactly right. It's customized to the particular disaster and to a certain degree to the particular recipient. So things that could be there is, well, this is the box itself that it all comes in. This is the tent, the standard tent, which takes about 1/3 of the volume of the tent. And it includes blankets, waterproof ground mats, because you're going to be sleeping on the ground most likely, mosquito nets, the children's activity pack, various hand tools for use, hammer, here's some rope, some warm gloves and a hat. We also include cooking equipment. These are stainless steel, mid-weight stainless steel pots and pans and cups because they're easy to ship. Mid-weight reduces the weight for shipping, but they're still very strong, so they don't dent easily. And we have stoves available, but we actually now distribute very few stoves because people typically either cook over campfires or they can quickly build a stove and oven locally for less effort than it costs for us to pack a stove and ship it and then show someone how do you use this stove because this is a new equipment for them. So great question. It is customized to the disaster. And in some cases, for instance, we don't give the cookware to a family because they're familiar with communal cooking. And so if we gave the cookware to a family, that would be disruptive to the community. So we give cook kits to the community to use. And if we're in North Korea, where we've been a couple of times, they don't need many mosquito nets, but they do need the OAS-3 heavy duty tent. Thank you. Any other questions?
Parker, I would ask a question from the perspective of your local Rotary experience. Hearing you present, I'm fascinated by the concept. I love what we're doing. Oh, yes. How does that, because Claremont has you, how is your club and your Rotarian experience engaging the shelter box on a daily basis, regular basis? What is, I don't know, is it, or is it just that you, because you're a liaison, they have you as an asset? How do other Rotarians in your community circle engage shelter box?
Most Rotarians in the US at least end up simply donating annually, either $1,000 or $2,000 a year, because there's very little local need for actual shelter box response in the US. That said, we have many Rotarians who have become shelter box response team members, and they go out of country most of the time to do deployments. So my task is making sure people remain aware that shelter box is still out there, that yes, the need is still constant. And I'll do a quick poll here or question poll of how often do you think there is a need for shelter box to deploy somewhere in the world for a natural disaster or a conflict?
Every day.
Given that we only respond where there's at least 200 families affected in a particular area.
Must be continuous.
Well, you're close. It's not totally continuous. On average, about every 19 days, there's a new disaster somewhere that affects more than 200 families for which our response may be appropriate. So the need is constant, so therefore we are seeking to get a constant inflow of funds. When you hear about a disaster, that's almost too late to do anything about that disaster. So the best thing is to donate to Shelter Box or another charity of your choice. The big six are Shelter Box, Red Cross, Red Crescent, World Vision, UNHCR, and Oxfam.
So we got time for one final question. Do we have one there? Okay. Thank you so much, Parker. That was an excellent presentation. Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. To whom should I send the correct donation form?
Will you send that straight to me? Just we've exchanged emails. Send that to me, and I'll make sure the club gets that. And I'll bring it up at our board meeting. How's that sound?
Okay, that's terrific. Thanks for letting me present.
Very cool. Thank you again. Hey, let's move over to the Fine Master. Keep it rolling. That's going to be Casey Cox.
All right, our Fine Master opportunity is to fine ourselves. We do so in 3 regular manners. We say that I'm fine. If you want to talk about yourself, tell us all why you are fine. Talk about somebody else being fine, and then you can say they are fine. Or go ahead and get on your soapbox and say, it's not fine. You are fining yourself some money for you to talk. If you're going to complain, double the fee. Who would like to say what's fine?
Okay, I'm going to go. I registered for pets. Now, I'm going to tell you that pets has been updated. It is President-elect Training Seminar, and they've updated it to President-elect Seminar Training. It's now PEST. So I'm going to PEST. And now it's my 3rd time. And my first time, I got to go to the beautiful city of Inglewood. They said it was the airport, but it wasn't. It was Inglewood. I got to spend 3 days in Inglewood. The second time, because I was overseas, I got to have personalized training at the governor's house in Laverne. So I got to go to Laverne for a couple of hours. This time, I get to do 16 hours of Zoom for President-elect training. So I'm just thrilled. And I know the next guy that gets it, the next person, whoever steps up to the plate, is probably going to go to Lake Tahoe or going to go to Arrowhead or Las Vegas, because they got to make up for all the lost time. But here I am again. I'm going to do 16 hours of Zoom. So that's mine. I think that's worth $2.
Who's your president-elect?
It's me.
Who's your president-elect-elect?
Oh, we don't have one yet.
Peyton's the president-elect, but she's got to become a member. But she's waiting to confirm that she's going to go to Tahoe for best.
Well, I can tell you that the regular pets, when it's in person, will be near LAX at the Marriott, because District 5300 now joins with 5 other districts to do a massive pets, it's more economically efficient to bring several districts together at one time.
That's the alleged airport. That's Inglewood, but go ahead.
Good to know.
But at any rate, that's mine. Who's next? Somebody else.
I'll go, Raymond.
I was gonna sign up if it was in Vegas, but
Worth $5.
it's worth $5.
Did you have something, Steve?
Yeah, I'm going to find myself $10, $5, because if you spend 16 hours on Zoom, that's probably double the time I've spent at 3 pets. So kudos to you. And I'm also going to find myself $5 just to congratulate the club on a great teacher mini grant presentation last week. I thought it went really well. As usual, we did some really good in the community and we had really good turnout. So thank you to everybody who was part of that.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Second that. Any other fines? Anybody want to say they're fine? Somebody else is not fine?
Yeah, I'll go. I am going to find myself $10 because I was late to the teacher mini grant presentation. I was out meeting a plumber at a property, and that ran long, and I had 1 bar on my cell phone, so I could not even log into the Zoom. And you'll notice I did not have video going for about the first 20 minutes when I logged in because I was driving back to my house and I didn't want to be distracted with the video. So $10 for being late to that. But I was able to log on just in time for the 4-way test.
You were indeed.
I'll be next. I want to.
Marianne.
Hello.
Go ahead, Marianne.
Fine will be a congratulations. One is to Raymond and the other one is to Steve, and I'll pay $20 because they did an outstanding job at the my mind just went blank at the awards the other night. And I want to say it was very well done, exceptionally well done. And I will pay $20.
Well, thank you for the compliment and the $20, Marianne. That's excellent.
Considering there were 3 of us that were hosting the awards, there were only 3 of us hosting the awards. There was Steve and Raymond who just got $20 donated in their name. And I was the 3rd member that hosted that night. I will fine myself $5 for not making Marianne's credential list.
I'm sorry, Casey. Give me another week.
I'm having.
I was going to, for getting a compliment from Marianne, I was going to add $10 to my fine. So I'm now up to 12, Steve. Write that down. That's worth $10 just to get a compliment from Marianne. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Well, we are fine together. We're having a good time. Let's continue to move on. Thanks for joining the fine time.
Okay, so the next order of business is to take a look at the calendar and see what's coming up. And so just give me just a moment here and I'll bring that up for you. And so we've got coming up next week. By the way, tomorrow night is a board meeting at 6 p.m. Please be there. We've got an hour board meeting, lots to discuss, lots of planning to do. I'll be sending you an email out shortly. What I'd like to do during my year is to come up with a consistent day for the board meeting. The club has grown enough and we're doing enough activities where we can't do that half hour before the regular meeting. We've got to have full discussions so that everybody has input on what's going on. And so we were looking at February is Child Dental Health Month, and we've got 2 dentists coming in during the month that Craig has got us. And then crimesurvivors.org for South Orange County. And it looks like our district governor, Greg Jones, is going to stop by on March 3rd. And then on March 10th, it'll be Mary from Volunteers of America, Los Angeles. So the calendar is coming together with really interesting stuff. It is still being broadcast as Parker. This will be on KWST for 4 times next week at the community television station. This meeting will be broadcast and archived on YouTube and tweeted out to our 12,000 followers. So hopefully you'll get some more interest in your shelter box stuff. That's what we got calendar-wise. Yes. Okay, now moving right to the 4-way test. Mike, who's going to schedule people to do it unless he likes to continue to do it himself.
I do enjoy doing it myself, but you know, it makes for a better meeting to hear a fresh take. I do keep the four-way test here in my office, framed. I have it up here on the wall next to my credentials. But the four-way test is something that as Rotarians, we apply to everything we think, do, and say. And if it meets all four of these criteria, then we know that we're pretty safe to proceed. The four-way test is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And that is the four-way test.
Mike, I'd like to add that we had the four-way test at the end of the teacher mini grant presentation. I think it was one of the best things we did. I could see the look on people's faces that did not know that that ethical component of Rotary existed. And I got lots of feedback from people who watched that teacher mini grant and did not know the work that we're doing in the community. So it was our opportunity to allow that light to shine, and the four-way test inclusion in these Zoom meetings, I think, has been crucial. And I also like to say your comment last time on it's the hard part is on what we do sometimes and on what we say. And I thought that was excellent. So thank you so much for stepping up. And Casey, also, I'd like to thank you for your introductions in the beginning of that. And then Steve, who picked it up after I did the presentation, the three of us working together, you know, Zoom having tight content for us is working. So thank you so much to all of you who've put that effort in. Any final comments before we go, or questions for Parker while he's still there?
Ray, could you please send me an email with your, I can't find the conversation with your email.
I will send you an email shortly after the meeting ends, Parker, not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, thank you very much. Have a great week. I'll see you at the board meeting. And Peyton, if you'd like to come to our board meeting, shoot me an email and I'll send you the link, all right? So I'll see everybody tomorrow night.
Thanks, Raymond. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.